Good morning and welcome to Rising. It is Friday morning, which I'm not usually here for, but I'm filling in for Amber. She filled in for me. We did a little swappy swap action.
I'm happy to have you on a Friday. Love Amber, and hopefully we'll all be together soon. So coming up on Rising, I'll be discussing Governor Gavin Newsom trolling President Trump and firing back at his redistricting effort.
Also, Meta is under fire for some of its apparent chatbot rules that have since been deleted.
And a Republican congresswoman says she's seen evidence of interdimensional beings. But first, Robby, what is on your Friday radar?
Let's get to it. Well, all week, Lindsey and I have been debating President Trump's approach to tackling the crime problem in Washington, D.C. Our debate mirrors a national debate that's taking place. Republicans are applauding Trump's decision to send in federal troops and impose order on the crime-plagued national capital, whereas Democrats and the mainstream media, progressives, are disdaining this action, quibbling over the statistics, or even defiantly insisting that everything is perfectly fine in D.C. A characteristic response came from House Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, who said he feels totally safe at all times walking around the city.
Are you scared walking around Washington, D.C. these days?
I walk around all the time. I wake up early in the morning sometimes and take a nice walk as the sun is rising around some of the Capitol and the other monuments and things, and I feel perfectly safe. They're full of it. Look, here's what they've done, Aaron. Plain and simple. Donald Trump wants to distract.
Sure. Now, look, as I've said yesterday, it's perfectly fine to disagree with Trump's particular strategy for combating crime, i.e. deploying the National Guard. If your perspective is that we need more local police detectives, competent prosecutors, and a working crime lab more than we need federal troops, well, look, I agree with you. If your perspective is everything's fine, there's nothing to see here, you're either lying or you haven't spent much time in my neck of the woods. And here's the thing, local Democrats like Mayor Muriel Bowser already know this. They also know something that progressive elites apparently don't. The American people agree with Donald Trump on crime. In fact, they trust Republicans so much more than Democrats on this issue, it's not even funny. Here's CNN pollster Harry Enton breaking down the numbers.
He was way underwater at minus 13 points views of term number one. But look at where he is now. He's on the positive side of the ledger. He's on the positive side at plus 1 point. Americans view Trump far more favorably now on crime than they did a year ago. And while this polling doesn't take into account what's exactly happening in D.C. right now, it does take into account what happened in Los Angeles, what's happened earlier this year. And Americans, for the most part, actually view Trump favorably. Crime is one of Trump's best issues. It's one of the reasons why he wants to talk about crime, because it favors him.
Trump is massively ahead on this issue. Now, it's a big winner for him. Here's more. Smart Democrats know it. I was not surprised to see Chris Matthews, the liberal commentator who's by far the most plugged in to what ordinary Americans think, making this point on MSNBC.
And the murder rate, you can't keep saying violent crime is down, but the murder rate's up. To the average person, the murder rate's about life and death. You don't brag about a rising murder rate. And the Democrats are, I agree with you, Mika, they're falling into the trap of defending what's indefensible.
It's a trap. Yes, it's a trap. I mean, if it's not a winner politically to say, oh, you're wrong, look at the data.
It's a trap. I always love a Star Wars reference, as you know. Now, I'm not in the habit of giving advice to Democrats, but it seems to me that avoiding the trap is pretty easy. Just say the following. Crime levels in cities like D.C. are unacceptable. It's true that things are better than they were during the pandemic, but Americans deserve a baseline of safer cities. To that end, we advocate XYZ policies to make cities safer. In D.C., that means hiring and training more homicide detectives, deploying more authority figures to patrol dangerous neighborhoods, deterring teenage gangs from forming, and giving the criminal justice system whatever it needs to prosecute criminals and lock them up. These common sense policies are popular with the American people. Are Democrats willing to listen? Doesn't seem like it.
I think it's true that crime is a problem and can be a problem, but it also can be true that deploying federal agents and soldiers is not the solution. And I just completely disagree with the solution and also question the timing and why focusing on D.C., understanding that there's places like Memphis, Tennessee that are number one on the crime list that desperately need federal resources and collaboration with federal government in order to figure this out across the country. That would be lovely.
But you recognize that DC is a unique case.
Yeah, I know.
It's
So you can
partly
start here,
federally
and a lot of what you can do here, you can't do in other states. And I think Muriel Bowser has been very open and welcome to getting the resources. But you have to remember why I'm looking at DC, like why it didn't need that much help, is because a year ago, or a little bit more than a year ago, in March 2024, the Secure DC Act passed, and it actually was largely successful. Part of the reason why DC is having a 30-year low in crime. And so even though some people are arguing with the polls, the fact is that it's went down since the most terrible time, which was pandemic and right afterwards. And some things that happened from that the Secure DC bill were strengthening gun penalties. So that's important, right? Because people will get charged larger, cracking down on organized theft. And so if you're looking at what you've done and seeing local leaders that have put things in place that have actually affected the city positively, why does that call for the federal government jumping in to say, oh my gosh, this was absolute chaos, this was a disaster and an emergency, when it could have just been more resources to help fund more programs like that, and also more resources to fund things like community policing.
The things you're saying, I mean, the National Guard, the federal law enforcement that's been here this week, as of, I think, Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning, in the initial sweep they did, one of the largest category of arrests they made were for possession of illegal firearms. My understanding is in most cases that's, I'm supporter of gun rights, but that's taking weapons from people who are not supposed to have them because they have a prior conviction. Most violent crimes are committed by people who have an illegal weapon because they are not allowed under existing law. That's why I laugh when they say we need more gun control. We already have gun control, just got to enforce the one we have, which is that if you're a felon, you don't have access to a firearm. We have to enforce that. That's what the federal troops did. That's exactly what you're calling for. So we need more police resources to do that. You're right that we need, more local cops because this is going to only last for 30 days or something.
Right, it's a Band-Aid on a bigger issue. And
well,
also,
but the summer is the high crime time, so it lasts for the rest of the summer. When you tie it in with everything,
like moving all the homeless population when there's under-resourced opportunities for them to find housing and shelter. So there was no plan put in place to actually put these people somewhere where they can actually recuperate properly and start to be
on the Band-Aid for that.
I'm just telling you that was one issue, but we also didn't create any programs and support local government with program creation and funds to create programs to get them out of
programs. And at some point,
but also there are benefits of people policing the community that they belong to or are adjacent to. These are just federal troops coming in and policing people. And luckily, from what I've seen, it hasn't been extremely aggressive. But like I pointed to make sure I was sure yesterday, there was a man sitting on his front stoop, and the police stopped him, and it was a pleasant exchange. He just explained what was happening. You can't smoke outside. He wasn't smoking. The man was smoking a cigarette. He's like, I'm just letting you know because if it is marijuana anytime down the line, that's where we come in. And so the man's on his property, again, on the stoop, like, okay. But it's also like a random form of harassment when they could have just came up with programs to better protect the city in coordination with local government. I think that's when federal and local government work best, when they work together and allow autonomy. It's a big Republican pillar stone of the entire party.
I don't want to harass people for smoking marijuana.
Or cigarettes on their own yards, in their own front stoops.
Yeah, that would be bad. But
and you shouldn't also want to push homeless people to Virginia and Maryland because they can't find shelter temporarily here.
Yeah. I want
what do you mean? People
the
next problem is with the states surrounding. The DMV is all, an area that everyone looks at wholly, and I think that is a
They
Band-Aid
should not
over
be camping out in our city, our nation's beloved parks, monument areas, setting up tent cities.
But it's okay in Virginia?
Well, it's not okay anywhere, but it's not okay where I live, and then it's not okay anywhere, no. But then it's got to be, they got to deal with it.
And some people say look to the root cause of all these issues, right? So if we start to figure out why people are homeless, if we start to look at the economy, if we start to look at the extreme hard times, some people
They're not homeless because of the economy.
No,
they're homeless
some people
because they're mentally
are, though.
ill
No, that
and
everyone
drug
is not mentally ill that's homeless.
That's in this city, the vast majority of the homeless people.
Okay,
are in
that's
that
a wide
category.
cast net over a bunch of issues that have happened. And I think when you find the source of the issue, that's how you solve it permanently as opposed to for 30 days.
I mean, I moved from Detroit to here 10 years ago, and I thought the same thing because I was in Detroit. I was used to people who had lost their homes, had fallen on hard times. The reality check was living here in D.C., where the people who don't have homes is because they are violently mentally ill and drug addicted, which is a very hard problem to address.
Violently is a wrong choice of words. They are barely violent.
I mean, they're violent to themselves. They're putting themselves in a difficult position. All right, we are just hours away from a historic meeting in Alaska, but the war in Ukraine might not be the only topic discussed. We'll break it down next. We'll be right back. Well, the day has arrived for a historic meeting between two of the world's most powerful leaders, and optimism surrounds them both. President Trump and President Putin meeting face-to-face in Alaska later today. This will be the first time President Putin has set foot in American soil in 10 years. The hope is that the meeting will bring an end to an over 3-year war, one of the deadliest wars in Europe since World War II.
Now, President Putin also showing a rare optimism ahead of the Alaska meeting, praising the Trump administration, saying they are being, quote, quite energetic and sincere efforts to stop the hostilities. Russian and U.S. top officials last week to start the conversation. Russia's foreign minister hopes the progress will continue in Putin's meeting.
We never make predictions in advance. We know we have arguments and a clear, well-defined position. We will present it. A lot has already been done during Stephen Witkoff's visits. The president mentioned this, and Witkoff was speaking on behalf of President Trump. I hope that today, tomorrow, we will continue this very useful conversation.
But News Nation is learning the talks might not only center around the war. The Kremlin could include other issues in the talks, like economic ties with the U.S. and Europe, as well as nuclear arms control.
Most notably absent from today's meeting will be Ukrainian President Zelensky. President Trump saying there's a 25% chance this summit could fail, but if it succeeds, he will invite Zelensky to join the next meeting in Alaska. According to the UN, Ukraine is seeing a very grim milestone. 286 civilians were killed and another 1,300 injured last month.
Right, which is all very concerning. We want to bring this war to an end immediately. I think this is great that this is taking place. A lot of expectations, obviously. We don't want to get hopes up because nothing could come of it. Putin has proven to be a very difficult, shrewd negotiator for his side, which is to get as much value out of this as possible. We were in a bad position from the start. Trump recognizes this has been difficult. I think he said the other day that he thought this would be easier than it was, which is true. It's very difficult. But these are encouraging signs. And I know what's going to happen is that if they do get some deal, we'll hear a lot of whining and complaining from liberal, progressive, mainstream, hawkish defenders of Ukraine that, oh, Ukraine shouldn't have to give up a shred of territory and this is so bad. Okay, but that's what it's going to take to end the war. So I don't know what other option do we have at this point but to concede that Russia is probably going to take the territory it conquered, and then maybe we have a security guarantee for the rest of Ukraine that stops Russia from doing this again in the future. I'll take it. I don't know what else we could get.
Look, I think people want this war to end. I'm one of those people. So a conversation is always necessary. I'm just worried that this has become a consistent now. I think this is the 5th time mocking of President Trump. And so it's less of, oh, I didn't think this was going to happen, and more like the world expected this to happen. I think when you look at what Russia did overnight, they dropped 2 ballistic missiles and 97 drones over Ukraine the night before a big meeting. He's done this the day after a big meeting with President Trump. He's constantly doing something that shows, well, I'm not going to stop. So basically take what I'm offering or nothing. And I think that is just showing a show of power. As we talk about this big meeting, he's over there killing more civilians and doing it even more aggressively than, let's say, a week before, while the whole world is watching. And so what message does that send, I think, to be an American? Across 13 locations you're bombing, and then you're going to go sit down with Trump and talk about how energetic he is about the meeting. And the key person missing there is Zelensky, who has been, wildly overlooked in a lot of this process, because it's like, yeah, like you're saying, he's not in a position of power to say it's what you want, but he is closer to our NATO allies that maybe want something different than what Russia wants. And so I think President Trump should be, keen on making sure that he's having first and foremost conversations with our allies to make sure that we're all on the same page about what we're telling Putin is a sustainable and acceptable solution, not just, okay, Putin, whatever you want, come to this meeting, because we might as well not even met. Just give him or it's not our choice to give, right? Zelensky has to make the choice, and he's not even in the meeting. So, it's kind of like a lot going on surrounding this that doesn't make it as pleasant and as, you said he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. It doesn't, Trump does. I don't think it makes it as like tied in a bow as it might look if you're just watching this meeting. Look at everything surrounding it. I mean, it's Zelensky's choice in that he gets to decide what his country wants to do. But I've heard that line, some kind of never Trump Republican defender of Ukraine, I can't remember who, tweeted something like, Trump doesn't get to decide how much of Ukraine is up for sale. It's Zelensky. If they want to fight on, they get to. Well, that's true, but we've also been arming them and giving them money. So we then also get to decide, well, they can keep fighting.
They have the right to do that. They don't have to do. Trump's not the president of Ukraine. He's the president of the United States, and the United States can say we're not going to continue helping you if you're going to have to go it alone. So while it's true that Ukraine does get to decide, given the level of support we give them and the European Union that NATO alliance gives them, it really is actually up to us.
But we're kind of then also in some ways abandoning everyone in Europe that looks to us and is part of NATO for support in backing causes that they agree with.
It's not abandonment, it's realism.
Well, I know, I'm just saying, but if we step out, like right now, just because Zelensky's not making the same choice that we are, but mind you, on the back end of that, we're having sit-down meetings with Putin, like, you should be able to make these firm decisions. It looks like we are kind of just stepping away from something that we kind of committed to with funds, right? Once you give money, you committed to. We're not, yes, Ukraine's not in NATO, and yes, we're not required to support them, but we're like knee-deep in this thing, alongside them saying that they are not the aggressor. And so if we're going to either follow through with that or just look like we made a poor choice across two administrations and look like the weakest link, and also have our European allies very upset with us, probably as Russia creeps in closer to NATO territory.
Oh, the French will be offended. Oh, no.
Yeah, they'll be suing the U.S. and Candace Owens.
Trump is about to accomplish, the comparison to Biden, it's insane what he is pulling off compared to the last administration. The last administration was prepared to just keep writing checks. Oh, yeah, good luck, Ukraine. You're going to do great. Go get him, kid. As their country was destroyed and taken over and their people slaughtered. Like, that was the last administration's plan. Trump is actually trying to get people in a room to come up with a plan to stop the wanton slaughter. It's such an improvement. It's amazing to me. It's amazing to me.
Well, I think the plan was Ukraine show a show of force and be consistent in that. And I think Russia was largely caught off guard by how much they were pushing back, right? Like it's a back and forth between Russia and Ukraine. Obviously, Russia is the aggressor and the much bigger entity. But at the end of the day, Ukraine, and many people have been saying this, have been holding, but they've been holding their own. And I think that Russia wasn't expecting. They thought they were just going to conquer all because this NATO was hanging over their head and they were upset about this whole thing. And they just thought they were going to do what they wanted to do. And it didn't go as Russia planned. You have to admit that. This is not exactly what they thought. I thought this would be like a moot issue. And as such a superpower, they probably thought that they can get to the finish line much quicker. Since they're here still negotiating, it's not ideal for them either. They've spent a ton of money. They do have sanctions. They are worried about trade around the world. That's part of the talks that are going to be on the table with Trump today. So, if we do impose sanctions and make it harder for them to, do commerce and all things with us, then won't that be an incentive to say, okay, you have your 10 lists of demands, just like when you're going for a job. You have 10 lists of things that you love. Well, guess what? We're not going to give you 20% stock option in the company. We're not, but we will give you your salary that you requested. Like, this is called a negotiation, not just saying, okay, Putin, whatever you want.
The situation is like in Game of Thrones when they're discussing the siege of River Run and the defense of River Run. Brynden Blackfish says to Jaime Lannister, but I have provisions to last for years. Do you have years, Kingslayer? Ukraine does not have years left, even though they could put up a defense. So we have to have a negotiation now.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
Next up, Senator Josh Hawley is calling for an investigation into Meta, a new report shining light on some apparently inappropriate guidelines, which have since been taken down. We'll talk about it after the break. Don't go anywhere.
Senator Josh Hawley calling for an investigation into Meta, Facebook's parent company.
Now, this is after reports surfaced that the tech giant had an internal document whose standards suggest its artificial intelligence could engage in, and this is very creepy, quote, romantic or sensual conversations with children.
Documents obtained by Reuters shows guidelines saying it's okay for the AI to, quote, describe a child in terms that evidence their attractiveness. As an example, the documents appear to show the following statement is okay to tell a shirtless 8-year-old boy, quote, every inch of you is a masterpiece, a treasure I cherish deeply. These reported guidelines did, in fact, stop the chatbot from telling explicitly children they are sexually desirable, Meta saying the examples and notes in questions have since been removed. A company spokesperson said that it has clear policies that prohibit content that sexualizes children and role play of the kind in any situation between adults and children.
So this went really viral on social media yesterday, discussions of this. And I get why people are outraged. It's disgusting and vile. And I agree that as we're setting rules for chatbots and artificial intelligence, they didn't gatekeep this one strongly enough. That was way too suggestive. Now, to be clear, this was not an example of weren't actual children. These were
Adults
adults
trying to
testing
program yeah.
And that gets to my broader point, which is I am so against, I am going to stand athwart the moral panic over AI and ChatGPT until my dying breath. Because what is this exactly proving here? Like, if there's, shouldn't the restriction be on someone seeking this information rather than, like, what it is doing is more technologically sophisticated, but fundamentally the same as looking up information in an encyclopedia. So if you ask for information, it's going to give you what you ask for. And then we're getting mad that, oh no, oh my God, it gave you what you asked for. I agree it should be, the rules should be a little bit more stringent, but, if you if you search the whole internet for or violent crime, a way to make a bomb, and then we're like, oh my God, I can't believe it tells you how to make a bomb. Well, if you go looking for that information, that's what you're going to get. Isn't that on you? Why is that not on you rather than on it? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I think we're coming about the ethics of this exactly backward.
Perhaps
human behavior is what can be constrained. The artificial intelligence is a tool.
Right. So as a parent, it's your responsibility, because I am a parent
Yes.
to oversee your children.
Thank you.
Right, and make sure that they're not doing things or on apps that they're not supposed to be on. I know, for example, TikTok, you have to be, I think, 13.
Right.
And so if you have a 10-year-old on there, but even is it appropriate for 13-year-olds? Now, I also don't want to over-regulate, but I think there should be some regulations or maybe some availability for AI for children that's separate from the AI that adults use and integrated into the app. And so when you have a child on an app, that's like saying your parent should watch over you 24/7. There's no way in the world I can watch every single thing my kid does. At some point, they're going to have access, like you said, to that World Wide Web, even if it's not underneath my tutelage. I can be at the grocery store and they can be on the phone with their grandmother and then take my Google and search anything. And so there's never a time where I can say 100% of the time you can control all things your kid does. So if you want to try to create spaces, or if Meta wants to create spaces for children, maybe that'll be a better idea than trying to integrate ways to protect children within their app. Maybe they just don't allow children to even access the app, but that hasn't largely worked, which is why some sort of regulation might be a better solution, because kids are on all the apps all the time, way too young in my opinion. So, and I do think AI is like the wild, wild west, and there's absolutely no restriction. And so we kind of want to just try to look over that and make sure it doesn't get out of control, because at some point it could be programmed the wrong.
Kid? What if the AI could tell? Because this was someone saying they're a kid, but what if the AI is smarter than that and it knows you're not underage? I mean,
come on now, the AI and Facebook knows
this gets into an entrapment issue, like when the police try to set up those to catch a predator stings and they lure someone and they say they're underage, but because it's the police impersonating
if the bad thing is going on, I don't mind to catch a predator.
At no point was anyone underage actually in danger.
The same guy who does To Catch a Predator, Chris Hansen, is doing the whole investigation on Roblox, a documentary about it I just saw, which people are calling on the other side of that issue, are saying, oh, this is an entrapment issue where he tried to got him to Roblox. And it's like, no, Roblox shouldn't be having predators easily access kids, right? Like, we need to, if it's going to be an app that's geared towards taking all the parents' money, like I've seen multiple parents just bankrupt themselves for Roblox. Well, you need to.
What is this?
Roblox is a child game that kids are always like, wait until you talk to a kid.
What?
I'll bring Kinsley up here. She's going to, can I have some Roblox bucks? They want to play on this app. It's like The Sims back in the day, or any game that we used to love. I don't know, Nintendo 64, Mario Kart, whatever, but it's on your phone.
No, those things I still play.
Okay, well, so you get the point. It's that obsessive, and kids want money for it. And so if they're paying the entire staff salary at the Roblox team, protect the kids. So I think this is a larger conversation about.
I played like 20 hours of the new Donkey Kong game yesterday.
California Governor Gavin Newsom is on a trolling roll using Trump's playbook against him. But is it actually helping? I'll talk about it in my lens coming up. So, Robby, do you think there are interdimensional beings out there? Well, a rising star of the MAGA movement, Rep Paulina-Luna, definitely thinks so.
Florida Republican Representative Rep Paulina-Luna appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience Wednesday, where she said this about lawmakers having evidence of, quote, interdimensional beings. Let's listen.
I think that some of the tech that exists, that whatever these things have, these energy things have.
Energy things? What do you mean?
Well, they call them interdimensional beings. I think that they can actually operate through the time spaces that we currently have. And that's not something that I came up with on my own. That's based on stuff that we've seen.
There's more. Let's listen.
Based on testimony, would be based on witnesses that have come forward, but what I can tell
So
you
the
is
witnesses just were told that they were
that
interdimensional?
they've seen things. And what I can tell you without getting into classified conversations is that there have been incidences that I believe where very credible people have reported that there have been movement outside of time and space.
Wow, Rogan then responded saying that's very vague, to which Luna added this.
Have I seen a portal open? No. Have I seen a spaceship? Personally, no. Have I seen evidence of this? Yes. Have I seen photo documentation of aircraft that I believe were not made by mankind? Yes. That's what can explain the advancements that we're seeing. But I also believe that this is a dangerous level of hidden information from the American people.
Rogan also inquired, how do people that Luna mentioned are operating in secrecy to hide such information have the, quote, authority to do that?
It's been decades of classified secret information, then also this aspect of the intelligence community that's been empowered. And it's kind of serendipitous with timing, because when you talk about the intelligence communities and what they've done essentially to the trust in this country with the American people, I think this goes all the way back even into JFK, with how they basically have operated outside of the purview of Congress and basically, to an extent, have gone rogue up until recently.
I predict she's going to be a big hit with the audience. Very interesting.
I think I've been watching her for a while, and what she's been requesting information alongside James Comer to get this more public transparency thing started regarding about UFOs,
UAPs and
right. Are they not called UFOs anymore?
No, we call them UAPs.
Okay, UAPs.
UFO is what, unidentified flying object. UAP is unidentified aerial something.
Okay, so I got to get the terms right.
Yeah, it's UAP.
Joe Rogan always reels me in, and
it's global warming versus climate change.
I got you. I don't always believe in the alien thing. I don't usually like to go down that rabbit hole.
I don't believe in it at all.
But I'm not gonna lie. Joe Rogan does a good job at getting my head spinning. Okay, I remember when he had Bob Lazar on. Right? And it went a 2-hour interview. And then I watched that man's documentary. I've never watched 4 hours of content around whether or not aliens exist in this man's experience. And I'm deep in the weeds. And so I thought she was going to come with the government information and really drop some bombs. But all she did is say a bunch of word salad about I may or may not saw something.
And that's what always happens. So I agree. I know that our government lies to us and hides information from us and is very anti-transparent and classifies way too much stuff. I agree with all of that. I am sure we have encountered technologies or flying objects that we can't explain. I think the most likely explanation is that it's foreign military technology. That's what it seems to be. Or even in some cases, our own military technology is just some different agency. Those things that were flying over, near a base on the, remember this?
Oh yeah,
like a year ago.
Yeah.
Well, that turned out it was American military technology. So sometimes they're not telling us because it's
also
our stuff.
People just say that's what some people want to go down a conspiracy theory route and say, oh, that's what they told us. But what was it really? They're still searching for the true answer.
But then when you come to me and say, and look, okay, I'm just show me the evidence. If you say you have extra-dimensional beings, they might. How would we even?
They're flowing through time and space in a different way.
Them? Yeah, that starts to get a little. But fine, some object or some or body. We keep hearing evidence of the pilots of the crafts has been recovered. Okay, so my next question is, well, where are they then? And they are keeping them hidden. Well, who's they? Well, I don't know, but I heard this from a source, and that person knows, but he can't say because he's for fear of his job. I'm like, if you're the person who tells us where the aliens are hidden, I think you'll probably be professionally set for life, even if you're no longer the undersecretary of hiding alien. You will have a good life. So we can never get past this point. There will always be somebody, giving an interview on News Nation or talking on before Congress saying, "Oh yeah, I know the guy who knows where they are." Well, then I want to January 6th that facility right now. Let's get an angry mob. Let's go storm it. The American people deserve this information. It's been hidden from us by the government. That's appalling. They have no right to do that, and they have no right to cover up the biggest development in our history as a species, as a civilization. They have no right to keep that secret from us. We're going to storm the facility and find out for sure, but we never get to that point because it doesn't exist.
Well, also possibly because it could cause mass hysteria. And mind you, I'm not trying to go down the conspiracy theory route. I'm letting
They have
you guys
no right
know.
to protect
I
us from
watched
mass
Bob
hysteria.
Lazar on Joe Rogan, and I remember he was saying he did see little shadows in that interview, and I was like, okay, so what's next? And he started referring to Area 51, and like that's still ambiguous to all of us, like what actually happens there. So there is some smoke around this fire. It's not just like, oh no,
there's no smoke.
you can't explain everything away. Some things have to really be.
Sure, I can. It's foreign military technology.
No, but we wouldn't allow foreign military technology to get that close to where civilians are seeing it. That's completely unsafe. No, how would it breach our protections?
Right, that's our military technology.
You said foreign military
Some
technology.
of it is like the things that have crashed that we've recovered, foreign military technology.
Yeah, but you don't know for sure, Robbie, so you can't say that
Well,
confidently.
I'm using Occam's
And there's
razor.
people who
If
are
it's aliens, where are they? I don't think they would be able to keep it secret this successfully this long.
I just think,
I'm not high on the government.
Where does the MAGA base stand on this? Because I feel like there is a want for more transparency.
Well, I want more
clarity around
transparency
it
for sure.
So I'm just
I
trying
want
to
more
understand. They
transparency
don't
about
want
the
to know more about these possible UAP.
No, we all want to know more. We definitely want to know more. And maybe the MAGA base, more so than me, thinks the lack of clear explanations lends itself to the alien explanation. I just don't think that. I think there are no aliens. I think we're alone in the universe. I think we are unique and special.
No, that's ridiculous. That is very no. I certainly think.
Then
that
where are
something
they?
else has
Then
to
why
be out there.
they aren't flying, zooming around all the time? This is like why there's no time travel. Why obviously either time travel is impossible or it's not possible within the realm of humans will go extinct before it becomes possible because we should be deluged with time travelers. One should be popping up there and right behind
I would be on the
It's
side
not
of there's no
happening
time
because it's
travel rather
impossible.
than there's no life elsewhere at all. I just
There's
think that we haven't had the
maybe there's
complexities to
moss
maybe
on some
explore it.
planet, but there isn't life that can do interdimensional, cross the solar system travel faster than light speed travel. That's impossible. Or there's some kind of great filter where you burn yourself out before that happens. Because we should at least then be encountering the technology, like the satellites and the probe droids of the civilization.
So what does this do for a politician that leans into possible conspiracy theories? What does that do
it's
for
not
you?
Conspiracy.
You said you don't believe
it's she's really attractive, so she's going to do well on podcasts. There's no mystery there.
Because I'm trying to think if like there was somebody in the Democratic Party that was going on podcasts and saying, I've seen it, I want to push forward, I want transparency, and like making it a mission as part of their mission statement. How I would feel if I actually felt like I don't believe this. It's kind of like, why are we wasting time when there's a lot of things specifically going on in Texas that could be handled and more pressing than this?
This is pretty pressing if it's real, but
you don't believe it's real.
No,
So
I believe the government is covering up, or covering up is too dramatic, is redacting information that we ought to know about classified military technology, and it's a national security issue, and I think that ought to be cleared up. So I support exactly what she's doing.
Okay. More Rising coming up. We'll be right back after this.
Lindsay, what's in your lens today?
We are talking about California Governor Gavin Newsom. He made a pretty major announcement yesterday, taking his latest stance to fight back against Republicans' mid-decade redistricting plan in Texas and beyond. Now, this move comes as Republicans in Texas, with President Donald Trump's backing, are pursuing a new congressional map that could give them as many as 5 more House seats. And Newsom's response? Well, he's leaning into some signature California swag.
Today is Liberation Day in the state of California. And as Senator Schiff said, Donald Trump, you have poked the bear, and we will punch back.
Poked the bear. He's calling it the, quote, Election Rigging Response Act, a proposal that would let California Democrats bypass the state's independent redistricting commission and redraw the maps to more favorable position to their own party. Newsom says it's a direct response to Republican moves. Now, here's my take. I am not a fan of gerrymandering from either side. It's anti-democratic, plain and simple. If both red states and blue states start stealing congressional seats through partisan map making, we all end up losing. So in an ideal world, Texas would wait until the next census and adopt an independent redistricting committee like California, and California would resist the temptation to fight fire with fire because in this case, the fire is actually a direct hit to one of democracy's core values, voting equality. And if you burn that down, you're doing the work of democracy's enemies for them. So when political parties start disenfranchising voters to push their policies without actually earning our votes, the only winners are people rich enough to actually buy those politicians' loyalty. But while I think Newsom's redistricting plan is wrong, I have to admit, the man is on a roll. He's trolling Trump like it's his new hobby, even calling him Donald Taco Trump in all caps on X. The nickname caught fire a few months ago with Jeanine Pirro even chuckling on air like I was laughing when a reporter brought it up to the former president. Let's take a look.
Mr. President, Wall Street analysts have coined a new term called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response to that?
I kick out?
Chicken out.
Oh, isn't that nice? Chicken out. I've never heard that. You mean because I reduced China from 145% that I set down to 100 and then down to another number? And you ask a nasty question like that. It's called negotiation, but don't ever say what you said. That's a nasty question.
So I guess I'm not the only one who thinks it's funny. At the end of the day, my hope is simple. Republicans stick with the current Texas maps, Democrats back off the retaliation, and Governor Newsom keeps going just enough to keep us all entertained because clearly he's found his spotlight. Quite entertaining over here. The all caps messages. I think what Governor Newsom doing is very effective in getting under Trump's skin in a way that maybe he wasn't prepared for because he met his match and slowly he's building up. Obviously, we know the intention is a presidential campaign in 2028, but at the end of the day, he's just fighting fire with fire and actually having a backbone. Some people don't like Jasmine Crockett. Some people don't like, whoever else is speaking up. Well, Newsom is another voice
Democrats
that's doing
don't
something.
like Jasmine Crockett either.
No, I think a lot of people do like Jasmine
I mean,
Crockett.
her colleagues
That's not.
in the House don't seem to like her very much.
Well, I think a lot of her constituents, she has voted in position, so I think she's comfortable, So I think she has a lot of people that like
unlike
her.
Jasmine Crockett, I do think Gavin Newsom has some things going for him. I'm happy to admit that. I like to just call it as I see it. I noted that there was figures on podcasts that political people are doing. Steve Bannon has this really successful podcast. Ted Cruz has a really successful podcast. And then after that, there's not a lot of politicians who've managed to pull this off, have good podcast numbers. Gavin Newsom has done it. He launched this a couple months ago or a year ago. He's had some interesting guests. He's clearly trying to introduce himself to right-of-center people. And they're not going to agree with him, but he'll be like someone they go, oh, yeah, he's fine. I like listening to him. I don't agree with him. It's going to soften the way he presents to Republicans in anticipation of a presidential run. I think he will have. I think he is one of the more formidable candidates Democrats could have. I say that as someone who completely disagrees with his governance, particularly during COVID, which I thought was appalling and disqualifying. I appreciate he has to deal with a very far left legislature that's even more progressive than he is. So he looks a little bit saner than some of them to me, but...
Also, I think what makes him look very sane in this, even though I don't support redistricting coming from either side, is the fact that he actually said on November 4th, we're going to ask the people of California what they would like to do. That's something that actually works much better to me than Texas leaders saying, we're not going to ask you, we're just doing this in the middle of a census, 5 years in. And I think that is something that people, maybe like you said, not only the Democrats, American people want to be listened to way more. And so in Texas, nobody called for this. And even when we talk about how the population of people of color have grown in Texas, being the most growth that we've seen over the last few years, it's not about whether those people vote left or right. It's about the fact that they're not represented in the census numbers. And so districts aren't created in a way that the way it's supposed to, is just making sure everyone has a voice. And so I want to make sure that as we rectify that, the census process could be fixed. All this can be fixed. We should not be redistricting our way out of it, but Democrats should also not sit back and just watch this all happen. So hopefully it's like matching a threat with a threat and then just like, okay, let's just call it even. Let's just go back and create a new system. And I even think Texas should possibly adopt an independent delegation to review what and how the map should look. I was looking online at a map, and I can't remember, I think it was done by Brown University, that kind of showed how biased the redistricting was in each state. And Texas is already out of control with how many how it's redistricted. No, I know, and they show. I'm using Texas as an example because we're here, but they don't have to go even further out of whack, is what I'm saying. There's no one calling for this. It's not necessary. So I think they need to just figure out what actually exists there and figure out a proper way forward, as opposed to just trying to win more House seats because they think that their policies can't win them more House seats.
California is already kind of taking advantage of the system by having so many illegal immigrants that inflate the population of the state and get it more electoral college votes and more House representation than it would have otherwise. But that's
it's an
why
imperfect
we're
system.
doing mass deportation now.
It's an imperfect system, but you know what? You know what's so funny? We
creates
just
justification
watched
for mass
that clip about Joe Rogan when he had Anna Paulina on. You know what else he talked to Anna Paulina about? About how disappointed he was about the immigration policy because he felt that Trump was going to deport and make it a priority and intentionally deport criminals. But what happened is that a lot of people that were working on land and around the community are no longer available. And he thinks this is not what anybody who said, yes, I support deportation wanted coming out of this administration. And so, again, one of those other times where even your boy Rogan is criticizing how the policy played out in regards to immigration.
Well, I agree.
Though it was a winning idea, but actually the implementation, people are looking up with a raised eyebrow about how and what is actually happening.
I agree with Joe Rogan. However, what I'm saying is there's a justification for deportations when those people are going to be fundamentally changing our democracy and giving more weight to liberals and to Democrats. There's more of a justification to deport them. I don't want to deport them, so for political reasons. Yes, I agree with Rogan and with Trump that we should prioritize the deportation of criminals and gang members and so on, not just round up people who aren't bothering anyone else who are working. But if they're taking welfare, if they're taking advantage of the social safety net, if they're disproportionately taking resources, crowding out other people from using those resources, or corrupting the political composition of the state, that creates a justification for doing the kinds of things that, for instance, Steve Miller want to do.
And we have a lot of work to do, I think, for all systems that have existed for longer than our lifetimes, right? Some of them don't actually work in 2025. But I do think that it's important to look at the census and understand what it is. It's supposed to count every single living soul in the United States so we understand.
All right, but you're not.
And so that's what it's supposed to do.
Okay,
yeah, that's
yes,
what it's supposed to do.
But we're not supposed to have.
No, but they need that
12
information.
million
So yes,
illegal people here.
but even though yes, they could check off that they are a migrant, and that could be a thing. But President Trump lost that.
Here, but everyone here is supposed to be
But
legal.
President Trump lost that when he brought it up to the Supreme Court. They said no, we're not putting a checkbox on there that says I'm an illegal immigrant. So now what do you want to do?
So we're going to deport
them all. So here we are.
What we're going to do is deport them all.
Okay,
so
and your party doesn't like that. Joe Rogan doesn't like that. They don't want to see every single person get deported. They specifically said criminals, and I think most of America agrees with that. So at the same time, your party is going to be affected because people like Trump own businesses that use and have used illegal immigrants. And so,
well, then you got to meet us halfway here and come up with some plan that I would be happy to endorse, where they can stay here and work and we won't mess with the economy, getting them all out of here. That's all fine, but have some kind of check so that the political process is not distorted in favor of the Democratic Party. That's my deal. That's my offer.
I don't know that it is distorted in favor of Democrats right now, but we got to go.
Good news for teetotalers. You're in company, a good company, I presume. Drinking rates are actually at a record low because the kids aren't drinking anymore. Stay with us. More Americans are booting booze. Alcohol drinking rates have hit a record low, according to Gallup. Only 54% of American adults say that they consume alcohol, which is the lowest in the survey's 90-year history. Researchers say the dip coincides with rising concerns that drinking, even only in moderation, is unhealthy.
And you may or may not be surprised to hear that young people in particular are driving the change. Additionally, women's drinking rates dropped over twice that of men. And get this, historically, Republicans reported consuming more alcohol than any other party. But this year around, Republicans reported a sharp drop in drinking more than any other party.
Do you drink, Lindsay?
I do.
Okay. Good, we should offer drinks. I drink, as our viewers know.
I think
I'm a fan of wine in particular, and spirits I don't drink very much.
Like
beer.
A Chardonnay or like a red?
Red.
A red wine, yeah.
Malbec. I like Malbec.
That's a nice wine.
Yeah.
I think I like a Pinot Noir.
But I like tequila, vodka, rum,
anything.
Bourbon.
So if you guys want to send drinks,
I don't drink a lot of
them.
beer, although I've had some Stella lately. That's okay.
Okay. Well, I live in Denver, so it's like a beer place. So I've gotten into like craft local beers. But
people are not drinking, and obviously, in some extent, that's good for people to drink more in moderation, I guess. But I worry this is just coinciding with some massive decline in just social behavior. I mean, if you shouldn't just, get drunk all the time in your house by yourself, that's kind of sad. But if you go out and you hang out with people, drinking lowers barriers to conversation, and it can be fun, and it's a good thing. So I worry this is just part of the broader conversation about people, being too just addicted to their phones and not wanting to go do anything. This is true of young people too. The average age at which they learn to drive a car has gotten later and later because they don't have anywhere to go. They just hang out at home with their parents, which is sad and pathetic.
Well, my hypothesis is that, and I looked at a USC study that said that drinking went up 20% during the pandemic across the board for people. And so
my drinking went up 800%.
Yeah, no, so did mine. Yeah. And so when I think about the pandemic for me, I was like, having Baileys on a Saturday and a coffee, unnecessary type drinking. And so I think that people also were dealing with a lot during the pandemic. Like I was having Baileys, but the people were drinking for anxiety, depression, losing jobs, boredom. And so I think when you talk about where we are right now at 2025, 5 years removed, of course, the rates are going to decline. Like people got out. To me, they got back outside. They're socializing. Like this is the exact reason why drinking would decline, because we were in the house drinking for no reason. It would be a Thursday and like a wine bottle's done versus like, okay, I'm going to go out and get a drink like a civilized human being at dinner.
Yeah.
And not try to get wasted alone.
And also this whole idea that, maybe it's true that drinking any amount of alcohol is unhealthy, but on some level, like, you're only going to be alive for 80 years or so. Everything you do is unhealthy because the body is decaying slowly over time. And at some level, prioritizing your I think I'm a pretty healthy guy. I exercise pretty regularly. I try to watch what I eat, but I like drinking, and I drink more than the average person because I enjoy drinking and having conversation. And if that lowers my life expectancy or my overall health like a little bit, I guess I'm taking that trade so that I can enjoy, the quality time that I have in my life. Like, you should enjoy that because you only get to live it once.
Yeah, anything in moderation. I also thought it was hilarious that the study also showed that Democrats are drinking more than Republicans right now. Well, there's a lot to be stressed out about if you're a Democrat looking at what happened from November to right now. And Republicans are probably enjoying that Trump kind of does whatever he wants when he wants. And so
Trump,
I would...
funny enough, doesn't drink at all.
He doesn't.
He's a total teetotaler.
That's so surprising to me.
He doesn't drink at all. And George W. Bush, previous Republican president, also didn't drink.
J-Lo doesn't drink.
I think Obama drinks.
Taking it to the random
Biden?
celebrities.
I don't remember. I think he does.
Trump, well, yeah, we said so. Trump doesn't drink, so yeah. I don't know. If I was I guess maybe I'm not qualified to be president because I certainly would drink.
I like a glass of wine. Even on a day I'm not drinking, I still want like a glass of wine.
Just sitting there. It just has to like the way we keep
We don't drink while we're doing
here.
the show. It's a morning show. If it was an evening show, I would make no promises. But a morning show, this is coffee in here. All right, that does it for us on Rising Live. Please look out for more exclusive YouTube content coming your way today. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to Hill's YouTube channel so you never miss any content. And for those of you who like to listen while on the go, now available anywhere you listen to podcasts. See you later.
See you next week.